Larry Bird basically taught me how to trash talk. It was my second game of my career. I'm scared to death already. Bird walks out at the jump and he just stands next to me and he leans over and he looks at me. He said, "Do you honestly think you gonna guard me, motherfucker?" Curse that. Like, what? I just didn't say nothing. Then he stands up and he looks over at our bench and he looks at Kai. "You all think this rookie gonna guard me? Man, I'm gonna bust you up." Just right in my ear. And I'm just looking forward. I'm like, "Official, please throw this ball up." So then finally he walks around, stands in front of me. He said, "I'm gonna tell you something right now. I'm gonna wear your ass out." I looked at him. I said, "I'm here. Don't worry about it. I'm from Chicago. Where you from?" Game starts and he just wearing me out. And in the fourth quarter, the game was kind of close. He came down. He said, "You talking all that junk. I bet you can't do this." And he raises up from Steph Curry range and he shoots an air ball. I look at him. He like, "That don't matter. It's the fact that I can do it and stay in the game. I bet you can't."
Okay, reactors, welcome back to the channel, the Nuclear Reactor, the reaction channel where all the reactions go nuclear. Before we get into this video, though, go over to my sports channel, Ring Culture, link in the description. But back over here, playing the Nuclear Reactor, y'all know I believe every action deserves a reaction. And over here, we are very, very reactionary. Make sure y'all like and comment down below. That's how y'all push me into the algorithm. And then I'll go get them with my content, hit them and fit them and sit with them. Subscribe and hit the bell notification so y'all can be notified for every time I upload. And I do upload a lot. Share my videos, hype my channel. If y'all want to help support the channel financially, Cash App, Super Thanks, or consider becoming a member of my Patreon. Today, my Larry Bird subscribers, have I got a treat for y'all. Y'all have been telling me in my comment section of all my Larry Bird videos that Larry Bird transformed a losing team into a winning team. So Basketball Universe took it upon himself to do a deep dive from Larry Bird rookie season, I think into like 83. I'm not sure. But anything with Larry Bird in it is going to be top-notch, savage, and a whole bunch of skill, dominant basketball. So I'm not going to take too much time in this intro, though. So let's go.
A rookie is not supposed to do this. They're not supposed to figure the league out so quick.
Ew.
They're not supposed to turn a team that had the second worst record in the league one year to the best record in the very year. But Larry Bird did.
Yeah.
And guess what? The Boston Celtics made no major additions in the offseason.
Wow, that's impressive.
Kevin McHale was still in college. Robert Parrish was with the Golden State.
That is absolutely impressive that they made no major moves or additions except for Larry Bird, beast mode.
And Dennis Johnson was with the Seattle Supersonics. A rookie turned this franchise around by himself.
1910.
How did he do this? What was his secret? After this long overdue deep dive that we're going to do on his rookie season, we'll see exactly what separates Larry Bird from every other player in NBA
What a
history.
steal and a dunk.
To start, we must emphasize how bad the Celtics were in the 1978/79 season to truly appreciate what Larry did to this team. This was, in fact, the worst season the Boston ever had.
Wow.
They won every.
They look like they're just about to fight everybody.
This was, in fact, the worst season the Boston ever had since the birth of the National Basketball Association.
Wow.
They won 29 games. They had the third worst offensive and defensive rating. And they had a simple rating system of negative 4.78.
Damn.
There was nothing about this team that would indicate that there was any hope for them.
Wow.
I mentioned earlier that there was no major offseason additions. So let's go through the moves that they made. They signed ML Carr. He would end up being an important role player for this team in the years to come. But he wasn't considered a good enough player to be a full-time starter.
Right.
They traded away Bob McAdoo for picks. And they signed NBA legend Pete Maravich.
Damn, he look old as hell.
1 year away from retirement.
Oh, it's great.
So he was the starting five for the 1980 Boston Celtics. The point guard was Nate Tiny Archibald.
Oh, Nate Archibald.
The shooting guard was Chris Ford.
Mm-hmm.
The small forward was Cedric Maxwell.
Mm-hmm.
The power forward was Larry Bird.
Larry Bird.
And the center was Dave Cowens.
Damn.
It should be noted that this Hall of Fame player was 1 year away from retirement.
Another one.
There was nothing special about their offseason that would explain why they jumped from winning 29 games to 61. Except for the fact that Larry Bird was finally going to make his NBA debut after being drafted the prior year.
That is amazing, bro.
This is the fact of the matter. He was the sole reason for Boston having one of the greatest turnaround seasons in league history. He led the Celtics to a 32-game improvement. They had the second best offensive rating, the fourth best defensive rating, and they had a simple rating system of 7.37. So the question remains, how did he improve this team so drastically? Was he putting up amazing numbers every game? I wouldn't go that far.
Nice.
His per-game numbers were great, but it won't blow your mind.
What was
He
it?
averaged 21.3 points on 47% shooting,
Okay.
10.4 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game. That was the 10th highest league average in rebounds and the 16th highest in points.
Right.
There were moments when he just
Well, it had to be his. You know what it probably was? It had to be more of his, even his leadership, making the team more of a team too and cohesive unit. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, 21-10 is nothing to sniff at. That's great numbers. But Larry Bird was a complete player. Y'all have heard me say this. I have Larry Bird as the number one complete player with a few other players. Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, probably Tim Duncan. I know that there's more, but they're the only ones I can think of on top of my head. And when I mean complete, I mean in every facet of basketball, they were great. You know what I'm saying? Defense, offense, and what comes along with defense and offense, assists, blocks, steals, rebounding, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
in points. There were moments when he displayed his individual greatness.
Yeah.
There were 2 games where he scored over 40 points. His season high came against the Phoenix Suns when he recorded 45 points on 59% shooting,
Damn.
13 rebounds,
Damn.
3 assists, and 2 steals. There was even one game where he nearly recorded a 20-20-10 game.
Wow.
Against the Detroit Pistons, he had 23 points, 19 rebounds, 10 assists,
Damn.
3 steals, and 2 blocks.
That's crazy.
There were times when he dominated statistically, but for the most part, he was giving you about 20 and 10 a game, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's not
Especially
the
for a
stat
rookie.
line that we think of when we use the phrase that a player carried a team. So what was his secret? I found the answer in a very informative article written by Kurt Reynolds for the Celtics blog. This is what he wrote. Quote, he only took 17.8 shots per game and stimulated ball and player movement for the league's most unselfish team with wondrous passing that harken back to the old Celtics and Knicks dynasties.
Wow.
Larry's basketball smarts, hustle, and immeasurable intangibles
Yeah.
augmented his awesome tangibles and lifted Boston from a mere 29 wins to a league best 61
He's a born
in
leader.
just one season.
He's a
End
born
of quote.
leader.
Larry had it all figured out
Yeah.
right from the get-go.
That's amazing.
He knew exactly what his team needed to succeed and was willing to do the work. He gave that team stability. In the prior year, Boston tried 21 different starting lineups and shipped 18 different players in and out of town. As it turns out, all you needed was to plug Larry Bird to make everyone look competent. Head coach Bill Fish described his value perfectly to Sports Illustrated that season. Quote, Larry can create off a set play, and in the context of that play, he can invent something that's never been done.
Ooh, look
End
at
of
that.
quote. Now play.
Wait a second, bruh.
Quote, Larry can create off a set play, and in the
Yeah, he
context
can.
of that play, he can
Look
invent
at this.
something that's never been done. End of quote.
Such a
Now players were
machine.
getting easy looks, even while being defended perfectly by the opposition.
Yep.
That's right. Larry could dominate a game.
Hold up, bro. Did y'all see that pass? Look at this pass.
Perfectly by the opposition. That's right. He can invent something that's never been done. End of quote. Now players were getting easy looks, even while being defended perfectly by
Look at
the
this
opposition.
pass.
That's right. Larry could dominate a game, even without scoring in bunches. That's not just on the offensive end. We don't think of him as a defensive stopper,
Right.
but he was an extremely valuable defensive player.
He was a great defensive
That's what
player.
the advanced numbers say. He finished first in defensive win share.
Look at that.
And sixth in defensive rating. In the prior year, this team was undisciplined on defense. He noticed this, so he strives to do the little things to set the standard of what
Look at the
needed to get done.
defense.
Sometimes to be a great defensive player is about putting forth the effort, and Larry never took any plays off on both ends of the floor. There's another factor that needs to be taken into consideration. The expectations that were placed on this rookie's shoulders were massive. He was labeled as a great white hope before training camp even started. There were even white doves that were released during his first game
really?
at the Boston Garden. He was expected to turn the fortunes of the most decorated franchise around immediately.
See, narratives and perceptions can drive opinions about a player. Let me tell you something. So, do y'all remember the game that Michael Jordan got 63 points against Boston? And they got that famous clip of Jordan going between the legs against Bird and then hitting the jumper? What people don't mention is Larry Bird played great defense. He stayed with Michael Jordan. Remember, Michael Jordan is this quick, fast jumper who is a rookie. And Larry Bird played great defense. Jordan just hit a great shot. But it's funny how a narrative about a player can make you see their great plays differently or see their bad plays differently. He played great defense on that play. Just insane. Larry Bird does not get enough credit for how great of a defensive player he is, which is a travesty, and people need to start speaking about how great of a defensive player he was and how he was a lot more athletic before his back injuries.
Were released during his first game at the Boston Garden. He was expected to turn the fortunes of the most decorated franchise around immediately. And he did exactly that. The pressure meant nothing to him. There was just something different about this player. There was no question that he deserved to win the Rookie of the Year honor,
question.
And he finished fourth in MVP voting.
That's crazy.
But would he be ready for the bright lights of the playoffs?
Of course.
That question was answered in the first playoff series against the Houston Rockets.
The Rockets, wow.
They had Moses Malone, the reigning MVP winner.
Wait a second.
The Celtics swept them. And
Moses wasn't on Philly then?
In the closeout game. He had 34 points on 65% shooting, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists.
Wow.
In the following series, they lost in 5 games to the Philadelphia 76ers. Their experience and stifling defense proved to be too much for this overachieving team. Bird played up to par with his regular season averages, but it was clear that some tweaks needed to be made to this roster.
Yeah.
It was a disappointing end.
Yeah.
There was so much.
Y'all hear me say this all the time. One player cannot beat a great team. One player can't do it. They just can't. I don't care how great that player is. One player cannot beat a great team. That's why all this BS about LeBron James in 2007 dragging nobody to the finals is BS. No one player is beating no great team in no series. It's just not happening. That 07 Cavs team was good enough, above average, and a very, very good team that got to the finals. They made that up to make LeBron the face of the league, and he's really pretty much a fraud. One player cannot beat a great team, and if there is any players that you think could do it, it would be Bird and Jordan, and neither of them could do it. But the fact that Bird turned the team from a losing record to the best record in the league, that is phenomenal.
To this roster, it was a disappointing end, but there was so much hope. They knew they were in good hands with this once-in-a-generation player.
Yep.
I believe this
Look
is
at that pass.
Impressive and greatest rookie season. I believe this is the single most impressive and greatest rookie season of the modern NBA.
Yeah.
And it will never be duplicated.
No.
Other great rookies might have had better numbers.
Yeah.
But none of them knew what it took to win at the highest level that early.
Not a statistical one, but the turnaround.
Who surrounded him with.
Yep.
This is all part of the mystique and greatness of Larry Legend. This is all part of the mystique and greatness of Larry Legend.
1981.
The rookie put the NBA world on notice. Now it was time to to take the next step.
Yes.
To take over the NBA world. Before he could do that, the Celtics needed to make some changes to their roster.
Okay.
In that offseason, team president Red Auerbach made one of the most lopsided trades ever.
Did he?
He sent 2 draft picks, including the #1 pick, to Golden State for Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale.
Wow.
The draft picks were Joe Barry Carroll and Ricky Brown. That trade helped the Celtics get younger, and they replaced Dave Cowens and Pete Maravich. Now, they had a championship core.
Wow.
They wasted no time dominating the league. They had a 62-20 record.
Damn.
That was tied for the best record in the NBA. They are currently tied with the 10th highest win percentage for a single season by a champion. That's even more impressive when you consider that the Eastern Conference had 2 other teams that won 60 games.
Wow.
There are many contributing factors for their successful season. Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, and Tiny Archibald were named All-Stars.
Wow.
For all NBA fans, it was very good to see Tiny back as one of the top guards in the league.
Yeah.
Prior to being traded to the Celtics, he suffered 2 Achilles injuries and 1 severe foot injury. Although he was no longer the same player, he proved that he had the necessary skills to direct an offense. He was an exceptional ball handler, a master at running the fast break, and he could break down the defense with his penetration. Another player who got to prove their worth for a winning team was Robert Parrish. He was no Bill Russell, but he was the ultimate rim protector. He averaged 2.6 blocks per game that season,
Wow.
the 4th best mark. Then, his ability to run the floor and to convert on jump shots made him such a valuable asset. So much so that he finished 7th in MVP voting. There were so many great pieces to this team, and others we'll get to a little later. However, the greatness started and ended with Larry Bird. This season has been bypassed by many, since he didn't post an eye-opening stat line or win any major individual award.
Right.
But if you watch closely, you'll realize
Look at that
he was
pass.
already playing at an MVP
My
level.
goodness.
Let's start with the numbers. He averaged 21.2 points on 48% shooting, 10.9 rebounds, 5.5 assists,
2 steals.
2 steals per game. If he wanted to score more, he could have.
Yep.
However, he was more concerned with creating more balance on offense and doing all the little things
So they can
that
win.
help Boston have the best record.
Look at that
He was more
defense.
than willing to
Look at
do
this
little
strip.
things. However, he was more concerned with creating more balance on offense.
Larry Bird
and
don't
doing
make
all
sense
the
to
little
me.
things
Look at
to
this.
help Boston have the best record. He was more than
Unreal
willing to
basketball player.
sacrifice his numbers
Yep.
to make high-value plays that don't always show in the stat sheet.
Exactly.
For example, this is what assistant coach Casey Jones said about Bird that season, according to the Washington Post. Quote, "The best I've ever seen as far as the total spectrum of the game.
Yeah.
Attitude, hustling, shooting, passing, and rebounding." End of quote. When you see his versatility for yourself, then you'll come to the quick realization that he was the best all-around player.
Yep.
That doesn't just apply
Wow.
on
Did he just punch the ball at him?
offense, that he was the best all-around player. That
He
doesn't
just-
just apply on
That's
offense.
crazy.
On defense, he was statistically the most valuable defensive player in the league. He finished with the highest defensive win share.
Again.
On top of that, he was 4th in rebounds,
What?
10th in steals.
Crazy,
I would
bro.
describe his defensive style as that of a safety. Some players are
Yeah.
like cornerbacks who are great at individual defense.
Yeah.
Larry was like a free safety.
Like Troy
in the
Polamalu.
sense that he was all over the place. He was fantastic at help defense and putting himself in the right spot.
Great
to
defense.
make a
Great
stop.
defense.
With the way he was performing, he had a strong argument for winning the MVP award.
Bruh, did he just block Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Skyhook? Did I just see that?
And putting himself in the right spot to make a stop. With the way he was performing, he had a strong argument for winning the MVP
Or
award.
dunk?
However,
That's
he
crazy.
finished as runner-up behind Dr. J. Although the Doctor had a great season, many believe that Larry was robbed of his first MVP.
Yeah. Was he
He
really?
had something to say about that. Their first-round matchup was against a tough Chicago Bulls team. They were led by Reggie Theus and Artis Gilliam.
Oh, Reggie Theus.
Although they kept every game interesting, they were crushed by the Celtics' depth.
Wow.
As a team, they shot 55% from the field for the series. 3 of their players shot over 60%. Their offense was clicking on all cylinders. On defense, they did a fantastic job of converging on Artis Gilliam. They frustrated him with their swarming defense, and he averaged
Look at the
under 9
defense.
field goal attempts per game.
Wow.
But then there was Larry Bird. His best game of the playoffs came in Game 4. He posted 35 points on 59% shooting,
What?
11 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals. After this masterful performance, Bulls coach Jerry Sloan said this about him, quote, I don't think I've ever seen a better player in this league. He puts all the pressure on a team and does so many things.
Exactly.
End quote.
Look how many people did. Look at that.
I don't think I've
Highlights
ever
while
seen
he's
a better
talking.
player in this
Look
league.
at this.
He puts
No,
all
not
the
this
pressure
one.
on a team and does
This
so many things. End of quote. This early in his career, he was already getting GOAT considerations.
Yep.
The conference finals against the Philadelphia 76ers is widely considered the greatest and most intense 7-game series in NBA history.
Wow.
They both won 62 games. They split their regular season matchup 3-3, and it was the MVP against the runner-up. This was as evenly matched as you can get. In fact, there were 5 games that were decided by 2 points or less. On top of that, the Celtics were down 3-1. That is where Larry took his game to another level.
Yep.
For the last 3 games, he averaged a combined 26.7 points, 12.7 rebounds,
Damn.
4.7 assists, 3.3 steals, and 2 blocks per game.
3.3 steals
He
and
did
2
it
blocks.
all. But what doesn't show up in those numbers is how well he
Ew.
responded in the clutch.
Oh, we already
All
know the
3
clutch.
games featured a come-from-behind victory.
Wow.
In Game 6, they were even down by as many as 17 points.
Wow, that's
But he
crazy.
made so many winning plays in those pressure moments. Of course, nothing was bigger than when he did this. It was a game-winning shot that led the Celtics to the finals. And just like that, the MVP debate couldn't have been settled more organically.
Right.
He outplayed the doctor and proved that he was the best player in the world.
Wow.
But there was still one more series to go. Moses Malone and the Houston Rockets were looking to complete the greatest Cinderella story in the NBA.
Oh, wow.
Although they had a losing record, they got hot at the right time. This was a team that needed to be respected.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate proof of that is the way the Rockets defended Larry. He averaged 15.3 points
Oh, wow.
on 42% shooting.
Wow.
That's the 3rd lowest scoring average for a playoff series of his career.
This was the finals?
Credit goes to Robert Reed for his stifling defense. But as he's proven all season long, he was much more than just a scorer.
Oh, my goodness.
He went toe-to-toe with
He like he was
Moses
behind
Malone
the board.
in the rebounding department. They both average over 15 rebounds per game.
That's crazy.
His activity on the low block is what saved the Celtics from losing Game 1. This sequence at the end of that game is what secured them the victory. What also saved this team was Cedric Maxwell's performance. He was the Celtics' biggest X factor all year.
Right.
He was even the team leader in win shares.
Wow.
It's no coincidence that he was awarded the MVP for the finals.
Oh, they won it.
Let's keep in mind that Tiny was playing through an injury, and Parrish had his hands full trying to contain Moses.
Yeah.
They needed him to step up. He responded by leading the team in points while being ultra efficient. That is what he did best, and Houston had no answers for him.
Really?
His greatest moment came in Game 5, with the series tied at 2 apiece. He went for 28 points on 10 of 13 shooting,
Damn.
15 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks. That is the ultimate testament of how deep this team was. They could beat you in so many ways.
Wow.
With Larry giving the finishing touches in Game 6, the Celtics won the title. In just a 2-year span, they went from being the 2nd worst team to champions.
Yeah.
This was the Larry Bird effect.
The Larry Bird
Their
effect, baby.
future was bright.
Yes.
But apparently, he wasn't untouchable. Imagine telling the
1982.
superstar of your team that's in the middle of his prime that he needs to come off the bench. Yeah, that never goes well.
No.
In most cases, those are conversations that coaches have with aging superstars that haven't come to the realization that they're not the same player anymore. It's extremely rare that a team feels the need to bench their best player,
Mm-hmm.
but it has happened to one of the legends of the game. Larry Bird was asked during the 1981/82 season to come off the bench for an extended period of time
What?
after leading his team to the title the previous year and finishing second in MVP voting.
For what reason?
What was the reasoning behind this curious move? Let's start from the beginning. It all started when Bird got elbowed in the face and suffered a fractured cheekbone in a matchup against the Milwaukee Bucks. Larry had to leave the game and would be out for the next 5 games. To make matters worse, Tani Archibald was also out with a shoulder injury, and he missed a total of 11 games that coincided with Bird's injury. Having to play without 2 of your best players is usually a recipe for disaster. However, the Celtics did not lose a single game from that 5-game span. When Bird returned, head coach Bill Fitch decided not to alter the starting lineup. They were in the middle of an 8-game winning streak, and he wanted to avoid messing up the team's momentum. So for the rest of the season, Larry Bird was asked to come off the bench. How is he going to respond?
Are you kidding me, bro? One thing I've never understood is that when a player gets hurt, they're still in their prime. They come back and the coach asks them to come off the bench, not to mess up team chemistry, which is insanely stupid to me because you practice with the player before they come back. And the team chemistry wasn't messed up before the player got hurt. But it's even more dumb when you say that to the player that turned a losing franchise into the best record in the league, improving them by 32 points. What chemistry is he gonna mess up? Insanely dumb, stupid, dumb.
Messing up the team's momentum. So for the rest of the season, Larry Bird was asked to come off the bench.
Come on, bro.
How is he going to respond to that? Was he going to pout? Was he going to throw his coach under the bus?
Yeah, Bird wasn't like that.
Was he going to fake an injury because he's not used to coming off the bench?
Yeah, Bird wasn't like that.
He didn't do any of that. He was ready to do whatever his coach asked of him. This is what he said after the end of the regular season, according to the New York Times. Quote, "It's the same thing for me as starting, except I come into the game a little later. I like to think I give people their money's worth when they come to a game. Even if I don't start, that doesn't mean I shouldn't play as hard as if I did.
Right.
Then I'd be treating the fans and my teammates and myself." End of quote. There was no difference in his play.
Right.
During that 22-game stretch, he averaged a combined 21.3 points per game on 51.5% shooting.
Damn.
10.3 rebounds per game.
That shot was crazy.
On 51.5% shooting. 10.3 rebounds per game.
Damn.
And 5 assists per game in 33 minutes per game. Prior to the injury, he was averaging 23.5 points per game on 49.9% shooting, 11.1 rebounds per game, and 6.1 assists per game in 39 minutes per game. He had the power to make this a much bigger deal, but that's not who Larry Legend is. He took the opportunity to become the greatest 6-man the league has ever seen.
What?
The Celtics ended up winning 18 games in a row. That is tied for the 7th longest winning streak in history. During that streak,
Good defense.
Boston outscored its opponents by an average of 11.6 points per game. There aren't many teams in history that could have pulled off such a dominating stretch of games under those circumstances. Teams nowadays are too dependent on their star player, which a lot of times results in teams standing around, waiting for their star teammate to go one-on-one. That reflects on their insanely high usage rate. According to basketballreference.com, 43 of the top 50 players with the highest usage rate for a single season came from players from the year 2000 and onward.
That's crazy.
14 of those seasons have come from the past 6 years.
That's crazy.
It explains why we're seeing so many incredible numbers. That usually doesn't equivalent to much playoff success.
Nope.
The teams that share the ball and the responsibilities usually are the most successful. Just look at what we see from the Spurs and Warriors in the last decade. To give an idea of how evenly the Celtics players contributed to the offense, Larry Bird had a usage rate of 25.2% that season.
Wow.
That would have been the 44th highest usage rate for the 2020/21 season. And it would have been just below the usage rate of Lou Williams, who was coming off the bench for that whole season. How crazy is that?
That's insane.
But what do you know? The Celtics didn't need Larry Bird to have the ball at all times for them to be successful.
Right.
In fact, it was Robert Parrish who had the highest usage rate for that team.
Wow.
So instead of revolving everything around Larry Bird, each player fulfilled their role that contributed to the betterment of the team.
Yep.
But that's also part of Larry Bird's greatness. He doesn't need the ball at all times to be effective. He was a player that had a unique understanding of how to control every aspect of the game and how to uplift his teammates' level of play. The Celtics weren't going to beat you with one player, but as a collective group. When you have Tiny Archibald, Parrish, Cedric Maxwell, and Kevin McHale, who was coming off the bench, there's no need to dominate the ball. And Bird understood
Look
that.
at the rebound.
That's why they were easily the best team in
pass.
the league. But they fell short of making the finals. So why make such a big deal of this team? Well, the main reason they got defeated by the Philadelphia 76ers in the Eastern Conference Finals was due to a dislocated left shoulder that Tiny Archibald suffered within the first minute of Game 3.
Oh, wow.
So that meant that Gerald Henderson was going to run the point for the rest of the series. Henderson was indeed much better on defense, but he was a big drop-off as a playmaker. We should give credit to Maurice Cheeks, who had a lot to do with shutting down Henderson on the offensive end.
Yeah, Maurice Cheeks was
tough. He averaged 10.6 points per game on 41% shooting, compared to the 50% shooting that he had.
Look at what Dr. J just did.
Shutting down Henderson on the offensive end. He averaged 10.6 points per game on 41% shooting, compared to the 50% shooting that he had during the regular season.
Yep.
The Celtics couldn't adjust to the loss of Archibald until it was too late, when they were down 3-1 in the series. They were able to force a Game 7, but the Sixers weren't going to allow themselves to lose a 3-1 series lead to the Celtics 2 years in a row. I believe it's fair to ask if the better team won that series. If Tiny Archibald was healthy, do the Sixers still beat the Celtics and advance to the finals? It begs the question since the Celtics beat the Sixers 4 out of 6 times in the regular season. We also have to note that Tiny was an all-star that year, so the Celtics didn't just lose a key role player. He was one of the stars in the league. So the unfortunate timing of that injury was a big reason why the Celtics fell short in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that, maybe we would have seen Larry Bird and Magic Johnson play in the finals a lot sooner than we did.
Yeah.
But enough about the hypotheticals. I believe this is one of the most underrated teams ever, and it's Larry Bird's most underrated season. It takes a truly special player to embrace a role that seems to be in demotion and to continue to thrive as the best player in the world.
Damn, he got over to the rim.
A lot of players say they'll do whatever it takes to win.
3 players.
Just as long as it fits their narrative.
Yep.
Larry Bird was truly willing to do whatever it took to help his team.
Yeah.
This once again proves that the numbers don't tell half the story of Bird's greatness. There is simply no one like him.
There's a lot of basketball-centered channels on YouTube that I love. Red Blooded Sports, y'all hear me talk about him and react to a lot of his videos. Top-notch videos. Johnny Arnett. So many of them. But Basketball Universe and Uncut Hoops have this knack for digging back to even before my time, because a lot of this, I don't know a lot of this stuff. These guys dig back. Basketball Universe and Uncut Hoops have this knack for just digging back in basketball history and bringing you right back there with their research. They are great at that.
I've never been this embarrassed in my entire career, and I'll live with that the rest of my life.
What?
Those were the words that Larry Bird said to reporters after his team got swept by the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh, wow.
He wasn't used to this kind of defeat. I'm sure you know very well the kind of success that Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics had in the 80s.
Dunk.
They won 3 championships, and they reached the finals a total of 5 times.
Wow.
But there was one season where everything seemed to go wrong, and that was in 1983. They won 7 fewer games than the previous year.
Wow.
And Larry Bird got swept for the only time in his career. This team didn't suffer any major injuries, and even added more talent to this already loaded team. So the million-dollar question is, what on earth happened? This was a question that many were pondering at the time. Milwaukee Bucks legend and Hall of Famer Sidney Moncrief heard all the talk surrounding this series, and he took it upon himself to answer this question.
What was it?
He said this to reporters after completing the sweep. I know a lot of Boston fans are wondering what happened to their Celtics, but they just got beaten by a better team at the time. What a curious, but yet insightful comment. Surely, he recognized that the Celtics had better players and were the better team on paper.
Right.
In fact, they won 5 more games in the regular season.
Wow.
However, there's something that we need to establish to fully understand what happened. Just because a team has more talent, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are the better team.
Yeah.
For a team to reach its full potential, there has to be chemistry between the players and coaches.
Yeah.
There has to be a system in place to make the most of all the talent the team has.
Yeah.
But as Mockery said at the end of his comment, they were beaten by a better team
At the time.
And at that time, there are many unresolved issues that make this team underachieve.
Right.
Let's discuss some of those problems that the Celtics were having. The first major problem was that this team had too much talent.
What?
In some instances, having too much talent can be as deadly as having too few. This was the case for Boston. Let's take a look at the roster that they had. Their front court consisted of Tiny Archibald, Danny Ainge, Quinn Buckner, and Gerald Henderson, as well as swingmen Charles Bradley and ML Carr. These are players who are good enough to play big minutes for any team.
Right.
So in an attempt to make everyone happy, everyone but Carr started at least 5 games. This resulted in a multitude of combinations and reduced playing time. You can imagine how the lack of stability in a player's role could discourage and frustrate them.
Yeah.
There was even an anonymous Celtics player who told Sports Illustrated, quote, "Now with so many good players on the team, it's easy to get disgruntled."
Oh, wow.
End of quote. As the season went on, that's exactly what we saw.
Look at the defense.
There was a change in the team's body language that was even more apparent in the second half of the season.
Wow.
They experienced a change in their roster that seemed to make sense on paper, but it ended up in disaster. In mid-January,
I mean, the Celtics already had a lot of talent on the team, so adding more talent threw their chemistry off. That's wild.
up in disaster. In mid-January, the Celtics traded a rookie center for Scott Wedman. He was a 2-time All-Star that averaged 16 points per game for his career up to that point.
Wow.
He was also used to playing over 30 minutes per game. But now he was sharing the backup duties with ML Carr, and he only averaged 12 minutes per contest for the Celtics that season.
Wow.
Why would they make this move when they were already loaded at the forward position? My guess is that they're trying to keep up with the Philadelphia 76ers. They added Moses Malone in the offseason, and they were dominating. Maybe they thought they weren't good enough to beat this team as constructed. They lost to the Sixers in the conference finals the previous year in 7 games, and that was without Moses. Maybe they felt the pressure to make some moves to match up with them in the playoffs. They took a risk, and it wasn't paying off.
Right.
The record with Scott Wedman in the lineup was 27-17.
That's still good.
Before his arrival, they were 28-9.
Damn.
It was obvious that this team couldn't adjust to their new roles. Their lack of cohesiveness made them an inconsistent team. Even while playing with the most unselfish superstar that you'll ever come across,
That's wild.
it just wasn't enough to make everyone happy. But that wasn't the only problem that this team had. They were also expressing frustration with their head coach, Bill Fitch. How do we know this? Well, the New York Times reported that some players have implied that they were tired of his drill sergeant coaching methods.
Oh, wow.
Then there was another anonymous Celtics player who mentioned to the newspaper, quote, "The man has a lot of good things to say. He just has some awful ways of saying it. You can only call someone dumb or stupid for so long." End of quote. I believe Bill was a victim of circumstance.
What was that?
When you're winning, no one has any problems with your coaching methods.
Yeah.
But when players aren't happy and you're losing, the coach is usually the one that gets all the blame.
Yeah.
Bill was no exception to this thing that we've been doing to coaches for decades. It was a combination of those two things that affected every Celtics player except one.
Larry Bird.
That player, of course, was Larry Bird.
Wow.
All that outside noise wasn't affecting him, and he had a career year.
Is he going to hit that?
Even with all
Get
the
out of
talent
here.
the team had, he recorded career highs in points, rebounds, and assists. He was able to keep this team afloat during some rough stretches,
Wow.
and he played a big part and Boston finishing with 56 wins.
Larry Bird is just like a piece of steel or iron. He's just rock solid no matter what. And Larry Bird was just a basketball head. He was a hooper. He came to hoop. So that's what he did. No matter what, no matter adversity, he came to hoop. Sacrifice and make his team better. Just a great player.
Rebounds and assists. He was able to keep this team afloat during some rough stretches, and he played a big part in Boston finishing with 56 wins. As much as they struggled, they still finished with the second best record in the Eastern Conference.
Wow.
They had arguably the best player in the world and the deepest team in the league. They had every right to be considered as championship contenders. But everything came crashing down when they faced the Milwaukee Bucks in the second round. They exposed this team and they swept them by an average margin of 11.8 points.
That's crazy.
They were also out-rebounded in all 4 games, and they were unable to score over 100 points.
What? Oh, what a
Game
block.
1 was the worst showing by this supposed juggernaut, as they lost by 21 points on their home floor. In the following game, they were without Larry Bird, who was sidelined due to an illness. However, this didn't seem to affect them at first. They started the game scorching hot, and they were up by 17 points in the second half. But in the end, they went ice cold, and they were only able to score 9 points in the fourth quarter. The last 2 games seemed to have played out the same way. The Celtics would start the game hot, but then would get run out the court by the backcourt duo of Marcus Johnson and Sidney Moncrief.
Damn, Sidney Moncrief must have been a beast. Like, I always hear about him about that around that time. I gotta check some things out about Sidney Moncrief. He must have been nice as hell.
The Celtics would start the game hot, but then would get run out the court by the backcourt duo of Marcus Johnson and Sidney Moncrief.
Wow.
After the sweep, there's a lot of finger pointing that was going on. Some of the players were blaming the coaches. The coach blamed the media for causing a divide in the team. Larry Bird was the only sane one who blamed the loss on themselves.
Right.
The Milwaukee Bucks made the Celtics realize that they needed to make some changes in order to regain their championship form.
Right.
They did that by getting rid of some of the excess talent that they had in the guard position and bringing in Dennis Johnson.
Oh, wow.
He was going to help tremendously on the defensive end. They also got rid of Bill Fitch, and they promoted Casey Jones as the head coach. He was going to bring a much more calming presence on the sideline. Those changes helped Boston win the title in the following season.
Wow.
And they were even able to exact revenge on the Bucks in the conference finals by beating them 4-1.
Wow.
It didn't take them long to get back on course. But in the end, they had to learn the hard way that it takes more than talent to win in the NBA.
Yeah.
But what about you all? What do you remember about this season? And what do you think was the main reason why the 1983 Celtics underachieved? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.
What a great and eye-opening video that was. Basketball Universe has done it again. Just dug back, just digging in the crates of history and bringing back, letting us know what happened so long ago and a lot of the reasons why. Larry Bird is just nails. His name is Larry Legend for a reason, because he's like he's like folklore or a myth. He's so great. Anyway, my Larry Bird subscribers, y'all get down in the comment section and let me know what y'all thought about that video, or any more history y'all need to add to any of those seasons, information that we learned from Basketball Universe and this awesome video. And always remember, I will be down there with y'all. I love interacting with y'all. The pleasure, it is always mine. The reaction, well, that belongs to y'all. I love y'all. Peace.